You've done everything right. You've read the books, attended the workshops, journaled every morning, meditated, affirmed, visualized. You've peeled back layers, confronted shadows, integrated parts. You finally found yourself. And then, nothing. Just this hollow feeling where fulfillment was supposed to be. Here's what nobody tells you. The emptiness you feel after finding yourself isn't a sign you did something wrong. It's a sign you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You just didn't understand what you were actually finding. Let me explain what really happened. When you started your journey of self-discovery, you were looking for something. A core, an essence, the real you, beneath all the masks and conditioning. And you found it. You identified your values, understood your patterns, recognized your wounds, claimed your authentic voice. You became someone you could finally recognize in the mirror. But here's the thing about finding yourself. You found a map, not a destination. You found a description, not the thing itself. You found a collection of ideas about who you are, and you mistook those ideas for the actual living, breathing reality of your existence. Think about it like this. Imagine you've never tasted an orange. Someone describes it to you perfectly. The texture, the sweetness, the slight bitterness of the pith, the way juice runs down your chin. They describe it so well, you feel like you know oranges intimately. But when you finally bite into one, something's off. It's not wrong, but it's not complete. Because all those words, all that knowledge, they gave you information about the orange, not the actual experience of tasting it. That's what happens with finding yourself. You accumulated incredible information about who you are, but information about you isn't the same as being you. The self you found is made of thoughts, conclusions, stories. Even the deepest, most authentic realizations about yourself are still thoughts about yourself. And thoughts, no matter how true or profound, can't fill you up. They can only point. They can only describe. Here's where it gets interesting. The emptiness you're feeling, it's not because you're broken or because you failed at self-discovery. It's because you succeeded so completely that you've hit the edge of what the thinking mind can do for you. You found every answer it can give. And now you're standing at the border between knowing about yourself and actually being yourself. Most people never get this far. They stay comfortable in the endless project of self-improvement, always finding new layers to discover, new wounds to heal, new aspects to integrate. The work never ends, because the work isn't supposed to end. It's supposed to keep you busy, keep you feeling like you're getting somewhere. But you got somewhere. You arrived, and arrival feels empty, because there's nothing left to do. No more seeking, no more becoming. Just this. Whatever this moment is, without the story of your journey to give it meaning. By the way, our shared space of light and awareness is on its way to 100,000 people. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and brings this moment closer. The emptiness after finding yourself is actually the most honest thing you've ever felt. It's what's left when all the stories fall away. When you're not performing your authenticity, or living out your values, or expressing your true self. When you're just here, breathing, existing, without narrative. And that scares us, because we've been taught that life should feel like something. Achievement, purpose, growth, connection, joy, something. We've been conditioned to believe that a life worth living is a life that feels significant, that means something, that's going somewhere. But what if the emptiness isn't the opposite of fullness? What if it's just space? The actual texture of reality before we fill it with meaning. Look at how reality actually works. Right now, as you're hearing these words, you're not thinking about being yourself. You're just being, listening, processing, existing. The whole elaborate construction of who you are, all those carefully discovered truths about your identity, they're not operating right now. They're offline. And you're still here, still functioning, still aware. This is what I mean about the architecture of reality. Consciousness doesn't need a self to operate. Awareness doesn't require an identity to be aware. Life doesn't need a story to live itself through you. The you that you found, that authentic self you worked so hard to uncover, it's real. It's valuable. It's yours. But it's not you. It's a description of patterns, a map of tendencies, a useful fiction that helps you navigate the world. And like all maps, it can show you where things are, but it can't take you there. Here's what actually fills the emptiness. Nothing. And I don't mean that poetically. I mean literally nothing fills it. Because the emptiness doesn't need to be filled. It needs to be recognised for what it is. The emptiness is space, openness, possibility. It's what allows anything to happen. When you feel empty after finding yourself, you're feeling the absence of the constant mental activity that used to convince you that you existed. All that seeking, all that becoming, all that work on yourself, it created a sense of momentum, of going somewhere, of being someone who's on a journey. Now the journey's done, the momentum stopped, and without all that movement, you can finally feel the ground beneath your feet. Except the ground feels like nothing, because you've been in motion for so long, you forgot what stillness feels like. Most people at this point do one of two things. Either they panic and start a new journey, find a new level of self-discovery to pursue, a new wound to heal, a new aspect to integrate, or they conclude that all the self-discovery was pointless, that nothing means anything, and they slide into cynicism or depression. Both responses miss. What's actually happening? What's actually happening is that you're standing at the threshold. On one side is the world of becoming, where you're always working on yourself, always trying to be more authentic, more aligned, more whole. On the other side is the world of being, where you simply are what you are in each moment, without the need to improve or maintain or perform it. The emptiness is the threshold itself. It's the gap between these two worlds. And it feels uncomfortable because you're not in either place. You're not back in the comfort of endless self-improvement, but you're not yet at ease with simple existence. Here's how you cross that threshold. You don't. You stop trying to cross it. You stop trying to get anywhere. You stop treating the emptiness as a problem to solve or a stage to transcend. You just let it be empty. Not in a giving up way, not in a nihilistic way, but in a relaxing way. Like when you've been holding your breath without realising it, and suddenly you exhale. The emptiness is the exhale after a lifetime of inhaling information, meaning, purpose, identity. And here's what happens when you stop fighting the emptiness. You start noticing what's actually here, not the big cosmic truths or the profound realizations, just the simple, obvious reality of this moment. The temperature of the air, the weight of your body, the sound of your breathing. The fact that you're aware, the fact that life is happening without your permission or understanding, you start noticing that the emptiness isn't empty. It's full of everything that's actually happening, minus the story about what it means. The self you found was never meant to fulfill you. It was meant to help you navigate, to give you a reference point, to let you communicate with others and make decisions and move through the world. But fulfillment doesn't come from knowing who you are. It comes from being alive as what you are, moment by moment, without needing to reference the map. Think about the moments when you actually feel alive, not satisfied or accomplished, but genuinely, viscerally alive. They're never the moments when you're being your authentic self. They're the moments when you forget you have a self at all, when you're laughing so hard you can't think, when you're completely absorbed in something, when you're struck by beauty, when you're in danger, when you're in love. In those moments, all your self-knowledge is irrelevant. You're not being authentic or inauthentic. You're not aligned or misaligned. You're just happening. Life is happening as you, through you, without consulting the version of yourself you worked so hard to discover. That's what I mean when I say the emptiness is pointing you somewhere. Not to a new level of understanding, but to the simple recognition that you were never lost. You were never not yourself. All the seeking, all the finding, it was like looking for your glasses while wearing them. The real you isn't something you find. It's something you are, constantly, regardless of whether you know it or not. And the emptiness you feel after finding yourself is actually the space where the real you has always been living, before you covered it up with ideas about who you should be. Here's the paradox that makes this whole thing make sense. You needed to find yourself to realize you were never lost. You needed to complete the journey, to discover there was nowhere to go. You needed to know yourself thoroughly, to recognize that what you are goes far beyond what you can know. The emptiness isn't the end of the journey, it's the beginning of actually living. Because now, without the project of becoming yourself, without the goal of being more authentic or aligned or whole, you can finally just be whatever you are in this moment. Confused, if you're confused. Empty, if you're empty. Uncertain, if you're uncertain. Without needing to fix it, or transcend it, or understand it. And that's when something shifts. Not dramatically, not with fireworks or breakthrough moments, but quietly, subtly. The emptiness starts feeling less like absence and more like presence. Less like something's missing and more like something spacious. You start noticing that the constant commentary about your experience, the endless interpretation of your feelings, the habitual checking in with yourself to see if you're being authentic, it all starts to quiet down. Not because you transcended it, but because you stopped feeding it so much attention. And in that quietness, life just happens without your management, without your approval, without your understanding. You respond to things, you feel things, you do things. And there's no one there constantly asking, but is this really me? Is this aligned with my authentic self? There's just the responding, the feeling, the doing. That's what fills the emptiness. Not more knowledge, not deeper understanding, not higher consciousness. Just the simple, unremarkable fact of being alive, without the burden of having to be anyone in particular. The you that you found all those insights and realizations and truths about who you are, they don't disappear. They're still there when you need them, but they stop being the center of your experience. They become background information, available when useful, irrelevant when not. And you start living from a different place, not from your carefully discovered authentic self, but from the awareness that's noticing everything, including that self. The awareness that's always been here, always been you, always been completely fine with whatever's happening. This awareness doesn't feel empty. It doesn't feel full either. It just feels like this, like whatever this moment is. And that's enough. Not enough in a settling way, but enough in a complete way. Nothing's missing. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be figured out. You're just here. And here is enough. Not because you decided it's enough or convinced yourself it's enough, but because when you stop looking for something more, you realise there was never anything more to find. This is it. This ordinary, unremarkable, constantly changing experience of being alive. The emptiness after finding yourself is the space where this recognition becomes possible. It's a gap between who you thought you needed to be and who you actually are. And that gap isn't a problem. It's a doorway. You don't need to walk through it. You don't need to transcend it. You just need to stop treating it like something's wrong. Stop treating yourself like a project that needs completion. Stop treating your life like a puzzle that needs solving. Just be empty. Be uncertain. Be undefined. Be whatever you are right now, without knowing what that means, or where it's going, or whether it's right. And watch what happens. Watch how life continues anyway. Watch how you respond to things, without consulting your authentic self. Watch how clear you become when you're not trying to be clear. Watch how alive you feel when you're not trying to feel alive. The emptiness isn't the opposite of fullness. It's the space that makes fullness possible. It's the silence that makes sound meaningful. It's the nothing that lets something be. You found yourself. Good. Now let yourself go. Not in a dismissive way, but in a releasing way. Let all that knowledge about who you are become transparent. Let it stop being the thing you're looking through and become the thing you see through. Let it serve you instead of defining you, and then just live, not as your authentic self, but as the awareness that's wearing that self like clothes. Comfortable clothes, familiar clothes, but still just clothes. You can change them. You can take them off. You can forget you're wearing them. And you're still here, still aware, still alive. That's what's on the other side of the emptiness. Not a new self or a higher self or a transcendent self. Just you. The you that was here before you started looking. The you that will be here after you stop. The you that's reading these words right now. Not because you understand them or agree with them, but because you're aware enough to take them in. That he doesn't need to be found. It's already here. It's always been here. And the emptiness is just the space where you finally have room to notice. If this video shifted something in you, write in the comments, I am the space, not the story. Write it as your reminder. Nobody